Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to this episode here. Mostly it's going to be about Game of Thrones, House of Dragon. There is a few things that I want to cover, one or two, before we get into that. I am lucky that I have my Game of Thrones House of Dragon guru here, Jacob. I've watched them. I love them, but it's not something I remember very well. It's not like Star Wars or something, so I have to call in reinforcements, and we'll get to that in a minute. What I do want to get into is something that's also dear and very dear to our heart, and we're just going to kick off the show, get right into it right now. And there was a report that came out that Andor Season 2 has been pushed to 2025, and me personally, I think this is a mistake by Disney. I am not a big Andor fan. I don't think it's bad. I think it's actually true to Star Wars. It's just not my cup of tea. But because it's so popular among everybody, that I feel like this is a mistake. What's your initial things with hearing that Andor got pushed back?
I actually think it's a good thing. I have had a lot of Star Wars fatigue for a while. I think the biggest mistake with the Ahsoka show that came out recently, I don't think there's a big hype for Star Wars anymore. I don't think there's a big demand for it right now. I don't think people are as excited about it as they used to be, and I think people need time to either rejuvenate their love for it or just to find something else and then get back into Star Wars at a later date. Because as of right now, like Star Wars, at least for me, and I'm sure quite a few other people, it's not in high demand. I don't really want to see another Star Wars show right now. All the Star Wars content that I know is coming out, I don't really care about at all. And as much as I did enjoy Andor, I don't have a desire to go back and watch it again. So I'm not necessarily clamoring for Season 2. I know there's some people out there who are big fans of Andor, but I wouldn't say that that's the most high-demand show in the world. I think it's good that they're giving it some time, similar with Marvel right now, where the only big Marvel release next year is Deadpool 2. That's their only big release. Give Marvel some time to recuperate, figure out what they're doing over there, especially with like all that Jonathan Majors situation. Figure out what they're doing. Same with Star Wars. Figure out something else. Figure out what you're doing over there. Recoup everything, and then get back on track at a later date.
Well, that's some good points. I think mine is kind of flipping on the opposite, that because it's been so much hit and miss, more misses than hit.
Yeah.
I actually loved Ahsoka, and I felt Ahsoka was very Star Wars-y, close, very true to Star Wars. The problem is that, and it was Disney's fault, and Dave Filoni should know better, is that you release, a series that's basically season 5 of another series that most Star Wars fans don't know about.
Oh, yeah.
So me and you know who Ezra was, who Hera was, who Sabine is, and Grand Admiral Thrawn. So when we see Ezra, on the big screen, we get excited, or Sabine, or some Easter eggs, or whatever it is. We see the Mortis god, the owl, and we get real excited. But the average person's looking at it like, I don't know who this Ezra character is.
Yeah.
I don't care who Hera is, or Chopper's funny, but, I don't care. So that's where they dropped the ball. If they, so my opinion is that Ahsoka should have never been made, at least not at this point in time. So, but because of all the misses, is that the one that didn't miss was Andor. And if you want to keep that small shred of hope alive and light, you drop Andor you don't wait a whole another year or so, and in that way that kind of gets rejuvenated. Because what do they have coming out? They have Acolyte man, and stuff. And
is anyone excited for that? Freaking anybody?
I was, but the problem is that once, and what's funny is that once Celebration came and I heard the actors and the people involved with it speak, it actually made me less excited, because of the stupid stuff they said.
Yeah.
And which is supposed to be the opposite. Yeah. You're supposed to see Star Wars Celebration and get excited.
Well, I do like the fact that there was an interview with Bob Iger as of recent, and he did very much mention about like the political messaging and everything that they were doing in Disney as of recent. And he's like, we're gonna tone that down a little bit. Like I'm sure everyone has been very at least the audience has been very vocal about the things they don't like about Star Wars. One of them is just the incessant like political messaging and specifically pandering that they're doing in Disney, and he's pushing that back. So maybe, but also Acolyte was made before this announcement, so who knows?
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. I'm not excited for Acolyte. The only Star Wars project that I have consistently loved as of recent is Jedi Survivor. Or Jedi Fallen Order, the Jedi Survivor
that's
games.
video games.
Yeah,
but
this is the only project.
but I can see that. Yeah,
yeah, it's a really good. It's
I
a
can
really
see
good
that.
video game.
I don't want to get too much into it because I didn't read a lot of it. But Mandalorian season 4 is now being pushed as going to be a movie,
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah,
which might be good. Let's be honest though. Star Wars can be done obviously in TV shows, right?
yeah.
Because there's certain ones that we like. Mandalorian season 1 and 2, 3 is okay. I did love Ahsoka, but it still shouldn't have been made. But Star Wars is at its best when it's in the big screen.
100%.
Okay, when there's that project movie coming on, it's 2 years away, year and a half, and every week you're getting some kind of leak and spoilers. You're anticipating on it, but there hasn't been that since Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah,
And I think that's another thing. So I think once this, I think maybe not. Once this,
I actually kind of think it was more the Last Jedi. The Last Jedi really had even as much, if not more, hype than the Force Awakens, because the Force Awakens had an amazing amount of hype because it was the first Star Wars movie in a while, and that. Say what you want, the original reception of that was really, really good. Everyone really, really enjoyed that movie. For the most part, there were some detractors, but everyone really liked that. Everyone really wanted to see how it happened to the next one. After that one, it's been on a steady decline after the Rise of Skywalker. I mean, Last Jedi.
I agree with you, because after I saw The Force Awakens, I was so eager to see Episode 8.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm thinking I'm getting Empire Strikes Back, right? I'm thinking we're going to see who Snoke is. It's going to be amazing, great twist, whatever. But anyway, that's a whole rabbit hole. But the thing is that I think that so there was reports that came out that in April coming up, the new Rey movie was going to start filming. That has been debunked. Not true.
Oh.
So not true. But they are going forth with it. So I think once that starts heating up, there's leaks out there. You see who's in the movie. You see steals of things that look awesome. Then I think that's when people are going to start getting that excitement again.
Yeah.
There's only so much of a TV show that you can do. But okay, I just wanted to know if you thought that it was a mistake or not. I personally think it's a mistake. Unless the Acolyte hits it out of the park, and it's possible it could. I just don't have a lot of faith in Disney.
Sure.
So anyway, I asked you a little while ago if you've watched the X-Files, and you said you never watched it.
Nope.
I'm a huge X-Files fan. Me and my dad, that was our show that we watched together. And just real quick, Ryan Coogler, who did, Black Panther and and season 1 and Creed 1 and 2. He's actually rebooting X-Files. Now I don't know full.
He didn't
details.
do Creed 2, by the way. Someone else did Creed 2. But he did do the two Black Panthers.
Like his cousin or brother or something.
I have
like
no
that.
idea. I think
the two Black Panthers. What he did? Okay,
yeah, he did
the
two
Creed.
Black Panthers. He didn't do the second or third Creed.
Okay, but he's got a great track record.
He's got a great track record.
And like someone was saying that, I guess he's been talking to Chris Carter, the person who came up with the X-Files. And anyway, well, we won't get into it because you're not a huge fan, but just letting people know out there that it looks like it's going to get rebooted. And Ryan Coogler, who so far is 3 for 3, if you ask me. A lot of times you get these directors that kind of get lucky and hit one out of the park, and then they're so inconsistent. And they have a lot of crap.
Yeah.
Like one that I feel that's been that way for many years, although I think he's gotten a little better, is M. Night Shyamalan. He comes out with Sixth Sense.
I'm always rooting for him.
I do too, but remember he comes out with Sixth Sense, and then I did like Signs, but then there was a bunch of misses after that, and then each one you're just hoping that this is the next Sixth Sense when he comes out.
Please don't suck.
So, but that's what's good about someone like Ryan Coogler, up and coming person who doesn't just have a one-hit wonder film. He's got 3 under his belt and probably more. I just haven't seen them all. But okay, I just thought we would touch on that. I do want to say this, and just for people out there, because I think this film is getting overshadowed. I am a huge Willy Wonka fan. And if you go back to the first episode of the Zilla Boys, when me, you, and rest in peace Ernesto, we were talking about this a couple of years ago because it got announced, and I wrote it off right away, like just leave my Willy Wonka alone.
Yeah.
And then, because I hated the Johnny Depp one, loved the original, I went with my wife over this weekend and we watched it, and it was so good. Not as good as the original, but it had that magic in it. The music was great. It's a musical, obviously. The acting's fantastic. The storyline is unique. It's not like that they're just repackaging old stuff. I felt like they actually did a story, and that was great. Okay, I lied to you. I said we would only touch on one more thing. Let me ask you, have you seen... I'm sorry, I just get excited.
You lied to me.
Yes, I did lie to you. Because I get excited because, you're here to talk, and I don't get to talk to you all the time. Have you seen the trailer for Ghostbusters 2?
Yes.
What do you think? Is that excited a lot or anything?
Not really. I didn't think they were doing another one, and then the trailer came out suddenly one day, and then like, oh, it's freezing. Oh, it's Ghostbusters. I don't really care anymore. I liked the new one. I liked the fact that Dan Aykroyd's son was the one who directed it. I like the fact that they had the old Ghostbusters in it. Spoilers a little bit, but it's been out for a while, so whatever. I liked the little girl who played the lead in the movie. I thought that was a great reinvention of the Ghostbusters, or not, kind of reboot. I think that movie is a great movie. They did a great job.
Paul Rudd is awesome in everything.
Paul Rudd's great. Paul Rudd's great. I just don't have... Personally, it could be great, but I just don't have too much excitement for it.
I'm excited because I love Ghostbusters, grew up with it. Obviously, the one with the girls, I didn't think it was terrible, but it wasn't that great. I'm excited for this one because the last one that came out, although I did love it, it was just basically kind of like The Force Awakens, just borrowing, repackaging, rebooting. This one seems like a unique new villain, new storyline, and stuff. And so I'm excited for that. And I think that's why I also was excited for Willy Wonka, as it wasn't what I was expecting. But okay, let's move on to what is, what you're here for. Okay. And that is House of Dragon. And, it obviously ties into Game of Thrones. Now, again, you know way more about this than I do because I watch them. I love them, but I don't know the lore like you do. So let me ask you this. Okay, I got a few questions, and then you can kind of say what you want.
I'm excited.
Do you, if they continue with the way season 1 was, right, and they're able to close it out, you said they're going to do about 4 seasons?
Yeah, that's what George R. R. Martin said. He said 4 seasons.
Just based off of the first season, do you think this will be bigger than Game of Thrones at the end of the day?
I don't know if it's going to be bigger than Game of Thrones because you kind of look at when Game of Thrones came out and what kind of milestone that show was. That show came out when TV was not at its peak. And once that started coming out, like 4 seasons in, it was big. It was very big, and it was in contention for like one of the best TV shows, but it still wasn't even at its milestone up until like 6 and 7. 6 and 7 for... You can diss the later seasons all you want. It got bigger Game of Thrones got bigger and bigger and bigger as it went along, and it continued to gain fandom up until even season 8. And so I don't think that it's going to hit the milestones that the old Game of Thrones show did, because that was just like a once in a lifetime experience. That show came around just at the right time when TV was starting to pick up again with like shows like Breaking Bad and a few of those other shows. So I think. No, I don't think it's going to have the same cultural impact, but I do think that quality-wise, it can be as equal, if not, in my opinion, potentially rise above, especially since the story is already finished. The story is already written.
That's true. That's true. What's funny is that I didn't watch Game of Thrones when it came out all those years, right?
Yeah.
I binge-watched it later, like a year ago, and I actually watched it after House of Dragon because House of Dragon helped me understand it. I remember, and this is funny, I don't think I ever told you this story. I remember years ago going to lunch with Glenn, our friend Glenn, and your Uncle Eric. So shout out to Uncle Eric. Haven't talked to you in a long time. And they watch Game of Thrones. I mean, they watch Game of Thrones, and I didn't. And I remember mentioning, and us kind of, we were there talking, and we all know each other from church and stuff. And your uncle said something which was so true. He's like, man, those shows are just so bad with, the stuff they show. He goes, but the storyline is just so good. It's hard not to watch it.
It's really good.
Yeah, it's hard not to watch it.
Yeah,
So.
I watched the first season with my dad. That was a huge mistake. That's not good. I watched it all the way through season 1, and there was so much stuff that I just had to fast forward through, and stuff that I forgot about that I had to fast forward through. Like that first episode with Jamie and Cersei with the at the end.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I had to explain like, no, this is why this is messed up. Like, oh no, that's awful.
I called my friend Glenn and said, I thought they were brother and sister. You know what I mean?
I hate to tell you.
I'm not understanding this at all.
I think they know too, and that's not stopping them.
Yeah, so I want to get back to that point in a minute.
I have a few points to raise.
But because it ties in because of something of House of Dragon. But that's the thing about Game of Thrones is that me and my wife started watching the first season years ago. My daughter was still maybe like in junior high or high school, so she would come down to the couch and play her Game Boy and start looking at it. We would tell you, quit looking at the screen, Brianna. And then we finally said, let's not watch it. And then, let's watch something that we don't have to tell her that, so we don't have to kick her out of the room. We felt bad. So we started watching Dexter, and she got hooked on Dexter, which is not much better.
Yeah, because Dexter is so family friendly.
And then my daughter started watching that and binge watched that like 3 times. And then I went back when I watched Game of Thrones. She was already, in college, and there was a lot of stuff in Game of Thrones that was kind of awkward to watch with my
because Dexter's way better.
Yeah, well, it doesn't have incest. Kind of.
It doesn't. Yeah. Well.
Hey, okay. So going back to the incest thing in House of Dragon, right?
Dude, oh my gosh! Before you bring up your question, I just gotta say there are so many like fandoms and like those people that will be weird about fandoms and like make body pillows and weird erotic. All the Ahsoka Anakin stuff. That's that's such a creepy, weird sort of every single fandom and everyone. There's a section of the fandom House of Dragon that like love Rhaenyra and Daemon together. Y'all, they're still related. That's still her uncle. It's so creepy.
Yeah, but you got your uncles, and then you got your first uncles, and then you got your. No,
what are you doing?
No, I'm kidding. I'm doing a homage to Mean Girls. If you just don't get it, but hey,
I've never seen Mean Girls.
So anyway, going back, yes, and instead that's my thing is that I love the character of what's his name, the sea snake.
Oh yeah, I can't. Corus Valerian.
Now remind me because I don't remember, but he's got all these kids and none of them look like him. Is that him? Who's got a bunch of kids in House of Dragon, and they mention it later like none of your kids look like you.
So that's not Corus Valerian. Corus Valerian is that kid's dad, and I forgot Laenor. I think his name is Laenor Valerian. They're the Valerians, and then they're the other dragon riders, but they're mostly like control the sea. They have all the ships and everything. They have a few dragons, but Laenor is Rhaenyra's first husband.
Okay, that's what it was.
But yeah, they couldn't because he's gay. They didn't do the deed that's required to produce babies, and so every baby that came out was like. Dark-haired white guy, and Laenor is like a black guy with blonde hair. And it's like none of your kids look
that's
like
right.
You.
It's the son. It's the son, not the sea.
Yeah.
Exactly.
None of your kids look like you.
But the funny thing is like, do you think that he's that stupid, just thinking like, well, they don't look like me, or do you think he just?
No,
says,
he was definitely.
He
on
knew
with
it,
them.
right? Like he knew it. Like, hey, I'm gay, so as long as she leaves me alone, I don't care. Everyone's
that was part of their
satisfied.
thing. She said like, hey, you and I don't want to like be together in that way, but if we agreed to marry, because you have to marry for power in that world, then we can sleep with whoever we want, and that's why Rhaenyra slept with one of the Strong guys. His little last name is Strong. I don't remember what it's called, but there's a lot of like subtle jabs in the show where instead of calling them bastards, because it's illegal to call Rhaenyra's children bastards because she's technically the queen and she's up for it.
And they didn't really, and they're not outwardly saying that it's not my kids.
They're not saying that. But there's a few times where, specifically at the dinner table scene, Aemond gets up and says, these strong boys. He's calling them strong, as in like physically strong, but technically he's calling them bastards. He's saying like, we all know that's not your real kids. Like we all know you're lying. Viserys is the only one that's going with it because he loves his daughter.
Yeah. This is terrible, but I know that obviously it's the brother and sister thing's disgusting. I mean, no uncle should be hooking up with his niece.
I'm so terrified what you're about to say.
But it seems like because Matt Smith's character is so awesome.
Yeah.
And the daughter of the king, what's her name, is such an awesome character.
Yeah.
That you kind of give it a slide.
I mean, you do. I mean, we did the video beforehand, and I was so excited when I saw Damon. And he's not a good person at all.
But you root for him.
You root for him.
Like it's kind of like I root for Dexter, but he's not a good person.
Yeah.
Although Dexter's a little different, he tries to do good deeds. But Damien's maybe like a breaking. I don't know. You can't really compare him, but he is such an awesome character, and I love the king's daughter, and so it's like okay, they're hooking up. I'll just let it slide.
Yeah, it's a different time.
Yeah.
What is it?
They're not brother and sisters.
Yeah.
She's old enough.
Even back then, like in the first episode of Game of Thrones, like no one liked Jaime. No one liked Jaime in that first episode. But as the series went along, you really cared for him, and now he's one of the best characters, minus season 8. But like he was top tier characters, and he slept with his sister. So Game of Thrones is really good about making you care for characters that are like pork their siblings.
And it's good at making you hate characters, too. That's what's great about the show. Boy, do you hate the characters. Because when I'm first watching it, Game of Thrones, I'm thinking, like, this Joffrey kid is the worst of all. And so is Daenerys' brother. I'm thinking, like, there's no way, like, there's someone going to come along that's worse than these. And then you have...
Ramsay Bolton.
Yeah, have him come along. And it's just like, wow. I can't believe they topped that one.
I rewound that scene where Jon Snow pummels him so many times. And it's like, I'll watch this forever. This guy sucks so
the
bad.
Battle of the Bastards is a great
It's
thing.
one of the, great battles.
Hey, how many battles does it look like we're going to get into in House of Dragon Season 2?
So it looks like we're going to get one main battle and a couple smaller either battles or skirmishes. I don't think, because Game of Thrones, if you look at the show and all the seasons as a whole, Game of Thrones isn't necessarily about the battles. It's about the scheming, the political rivalries, the interconnected relationships. Battles are there, and battles are definitely fought, and you definitely need battles. This is the Dance of the Dragons. There's technically more battles. I can't say that for sure. I was about to say there's more battles in Dance of Dragons than there are on Game of Thrones, but there's a lot of battles. You have to have battles.
Yeah.
But Game of Thrones never 100% focuses on that. So what's going to happen is there's going to be the battle of not the Stepstones. I forgot. I said it in the last video, and I watched a video before I came here, and I completely forgot what it was. Anyway, there's going to be one main battle with a couple dragons involved. It's going to be big. Rook's Rest, that's what it was. There's going to be that battle, and then there's going to be a few more side skirmishes. They're not going to be battles as much as they are like strategic movements by Daemon and a few other characters involved. There's a few things that's going to happen that I know for sure have to happen if they're continuing directly from the last episode of the last season. What is it? Aemond is going to play a bigger role. Kristen Cole is going to play a bigger role. Probably within the next few episodes.
Does it stay true? Okay, so you know how, and you saw it some in House of Dragon, but in Game of Thrones, the one thing that's pretty, and people say this, what I'm about to say that about Walking Dead, even though I didn't watch it, is that Game of Thrones, it was kind of like, don't get too attached to someone because they're not guaranteed that they're going to be around. Mm-hmm. Is that going to kind of continue in the next seasons coming up? Like, there's going to be some things like, wow, I thought that was a main character. Like, I didn't see that coming.
Yes, I'm not going to say who. I'm going to try my best not to spoil anything for anyone watching. Yes, that same mentality of anyone can be killed applies in House of Dragon because I'm not going to spoil what happens, but House of Dragon is a tragedy. It's a tragic story, and so. Yeah, there are going to be some people who are going to die, people you don't expect to die. And I don't think necessarily saying that is a spoiler because we know George R. R. Martin's world. We know this is the world that he's set up. So saying that is not spoiling anything. But yes, things will happen and characters that are prominent will die. So yes, I'm not saying don't get attached, but expect the unexpected if you don't know what happens in House of Dragon.
Okay. The one thing that I thought was real unique with House of Dragon that I actually loved because it was different than Game of Thrones is I like the time jumps.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like she's there, and then time passes, jumps here, this and that. How are we going to get more of those, or is are we pretty much staying where we're at right now?
I think I think that was specifically for that season. I think we're staying where we're at because now we're like we have the first season was essentially build up and catch up to the point in time where the Dance of Dragons begins. And so now that we're there, we're staying in that timeline. There might be a couple jumps as in months, but it's most likely going to stay pretty consistent within the timeline because there's some characters that need to grow up a little more. But we're probably staying within the same timeline.
Yeah. The one thing that I'm kind of sad for, but it was played out well, is the king is gone. Obviously,
that was a big thing. Was so good,
but he was such a great character.
Yeah,
and the poor guy just wanted his family to get along.
I know. It's like,
can't you guys just get along?
Yeah,
I'll do this and this. Now shut up. It's kind of like the parents like, fine, I will both buy you a Nintendo Switch. Just get along. I'll make it even. I'll make it fair. I'll do this and that. You know what I mean? Just get along and. The poor guy.
Just can't. Well, that's part of the issue. Like, their parents didn't like each other, and then they made their kids not like each other. So their kids may not even 100% know why I'm not supposed to like these guys. They just don't. Well, that's not true. Aemond has a pretty good reason to not hate those kids. They took his eye. So that's pretty fair. That's pretty fair.
Damien, is his wife still alive?
No, she isn't. Daemon's first wife... Oh, what's that? Daemon's second wife, actually. They're both dead. His first wife, he ended up killing in, I guess, spoilers for the first seasons of House of Dragon. Daemon ended up killing his first wife, which they did not get along at all.
Yeah.
He killed her, and then his second wife, she died technically in child labor.
That's what it was.
And then she asked Vagar, who was her dragon at the time, to burn her so she can go out like a warrior instead of...
That's what it was, okay.
She did that, and so his current wife is Rhaenyra, and... obviously, she ain't dead yet. So
it was just funny when he would come to his first wife, and they would just have it out.
Oh yeah, just hated each other.
Each other.
But I do like the fact that, again, this is what's good about Game of Thrones. Daemon's not a good person at all. But you see the sympathy that he has for his family. You see that he still loves his brother. He still wants his brother's attention. A lot of what he does is for his own brother's attention. He still cares for Rhaenyra. He still cares for his family. What is it? He even cares for his children and his wife. When he was, that when his wife was giving birth. A lot of the turmoil that he was going through, he's already seen his brother's wife do the same thing. She died in child labor. He knew this was going to happen to her too. So this character does love and does feel sympathy in his own way, but at the same time, he's not necessarily a good person because there's not a lot of good people in Game of Thrones.
No. You mentioned that a lot of the Game of Thrones is not really a lot necessarily an action. There's action, but it's more of who's taking over the thrones. It's kind of like chess. Who's maneuvering here to set up to do that. I feel like, and I hate to bring this up, I feel like that's what made Palpatine so good. Is he was so patient. That he was in it for the long haul. Mm-hmm. Like, I am going to do this, I'm going to do that, and it's going to take me a lot of years, but before they know it, I'm now supreme emperor. And that's kind of how Game of Thrones is, in a sense. A lot of political. There is battles, obviously, but the way he manipulates everything.
Yes, that's why Tywin Lannister was so good in the first 4 seasons of Game of Thrones. His character was always in control, and he was always the chess master. He is so in charge of his domain. He knows everything that needs to happen. And technically, Joffrey was king, but really Tywin was king. Because there was a scene where Joffrey, who is king of the realms, he is, King's Landing is his kingdom. That is his kingdom. Tywin was just standing above him, disciplining him like a father. He wasn't even disciplining him because you can't talk to the king a certain way. He was showing his power by just the elevation of his rank, showing who he is. But he knows Joffrey. He knows he's just a child, and that I can use you to my own will. Yeah. So, yeah, that's why Game of Thrones is great when there's strategy and there's manipulation.
For that. Okay. Okay. So, well, yeah, I'm definitely cannot wait. I think in the future we talked about that we would just maybe do a recap of
Yeah,
season
sure.
one, maybe each episode kind of go over it, just to make sure that, everybody kind of remembers it, especially me and all that. So would you say, Damien's your favorite character?
Yes, Damon's my favorite character. I would say I don't actually know who follows him. Potentially closely followed by Rhaenyra. I didn't actually like Rhaenyra the first time. The first few episodes I saw her in, I thought she was just a spoiled child. And then as she progressed on, and I come to understand her a little more, and then especially in her adult, I love adult Rhaenyra. I think she's such an interesting and fallible and understandable character. She's very sympathetic, but she does things for her own betterment that definitely are not good things, but you understand why she does those things. I'm very interested to see what they do to her moving forward. I think the actress portraying her did an amazing job. I still think Patty Constantine deserved the nomination above her, but that's not to take her down a notch. She deserved all the awards and accolades that she got for her performance. I think she's amazing, and I can't wait to see both of those two murder lots of people.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say that they're my favorite, but I would reverse it. I actually kind of really like the Queen.
Oh, Rhaenyra? Okay.
Yeah, I really like Rhaenyra. I just like how at first, she is named, the heir by the father, and but then she just kind of grows stronger and stronger as she gets older, and has that like now confident now, and
Yeah.
and then when you see that last shot of the last episode, last shot of her, it's like oh, you're in for it now.
As a mother's scorn.
Yeah. And I just, I know you know the answer to this, but I just hope she doesn't go a little cuckoo like like what's her name from Game of Thrones?
Yeah, Daenerys. It's not this. It's not the same.
Okay.
It's also. I mean, don't take even what I just said like literally. Like, you'll see. I don't want to spoil it. I can't spoil it.
Don't spoil it. Don't spoil it.
Yeah. Again, if you rewatch Game of Thrones, I think it's in season 3, 4. It's in one of those seasons. Joffrey tells you what happens. Okay, just to clarify, if anyone's watching this, and if anyone wants to know which scene to avoid, if you don't want to know the ending of House of Dragon, there's a scene where Joffrey is talking to what's her freaking name? One of the Hightower ladies? Maybe that's her name. One of the ladies that comes in who's redhead, very beautiful, and she makes her way into the family, marrying Joffrey, and then she marries Tommen. There's one scene where he's showing her the catacombs. He's showing her all these places. And then he shows her one specific area. Avoid that scene. If he's showing off anything to this chick, this redhead chick whose name I can't remember, avoid that scene. Avoid that scene entirely, because you will be spoiled about the ending of House of Dragon.
That's hilarious. That went, and I probably watched that, I'm sure, and went right over my head. I probably was like, I don't know what he's talking about.
As soon as House of Dragon was coming out around the same time, I was watching all of Game of Thrones, and I saw that, and I was like, you got to be kidding me.
Hey, let me ask you. You would know about this real quick to end this. Is there any House of Dragon or Game of Thrones video games?
No. Well, not any good ones that I know.
No?
No.
Okay. I think that would be kind of cool.
There's what's the Dark Souls game? I friggin' forgot. Oh my gosh. Elden Ring. George R. R. Martin technically wrote the backstory for Elden Ring, and it's a very medieval style that's not similar, but it is similar to Game of Thrones. So if you want, the closest thing that I would say is to a Game of Thrones video game that's amazing is Elden Ring. It's also incredibly hard, so you will rage.
Interesting. All right. So I'll just have to stick with World of Warcraft for right now.
Pretty much. Or if you want to do Elden Ring, which I'd recommend, but as long as you're fine with breaking your TV.
I guess the big thing right now that my daughter and her husband are doing is that Baldur's Gate 3.
Oh, okay.
Dungeons and Dragons one.
Have they invited you on yet? to play?
No, but that one's with a console or something. I probably could play with my PC, but
Okay, gotcha.
but no, the regular Dungeons and Dragons, no, they haven't invited me.
Ah, lame.
But anyway, thank you, man.
Yeah.
We'll get deeper next time. This was just kind
That's
of
what
like
she said.
Michael Scott. But yeah, so thank you, man. I
Yeah,
appreciate
no
you
worries.
coming. All right. And until then, everyone, let us know your comments, like, subscribe, do the whole thing. You know how it is. Every time you do that, you save a little orphan. And no, I'm just kidding. That's terrible. But okay.